McArthur wrote that twice. If it is not spelled out in the Constitution as a federal power, I, as a citizen, in theory anyway, have more power on that issue than the federal government does in my own life. And conservatives should really applaud that. I'll tell you when it's like telling you when, amen, preachers and things. I'll tell you when. The Bill of Rights guarantees the rights of the individual over the federal government and the state government, although in other things we are subject to both of them. Now sometimes as conservatives, we get confused about that. We are subject, and the Bible spells that out, that we're subject to the higher power. We're subject to the federal government. We're subject to the state government, but the government is subject to us.
Right.
And these inalienable rights that we have, that our forefathers said, that not because they wrote them down, they said it just is, that trumps government power. The Ninth Amendment goes even further and spells out that not only do we trump the states in the rights listed in those 9 other amendments, but we have other natural rights, and that they do not have to be listed to be protected. So the federal government is supreme, except when it is inferior to the state and to the people. So goes the power of the state and of the individual. And in unique situations, each is supreme and each is inferior. This is an incredible document. No one's written anything better than this since, if you want to talk about relevancy. The executive branch is in charge, but is subject to the judiciary and the legislature, and vice versa. Absolutely brilliant. Nobody gets to be the big boss unchallenged. And we can see that. We may not like what's going on with Mueller, with the Mueller trial and with the so-called collusion, but we see nobody gets to be the big boss unchallenged. Everyone can be overruled. Everything except the Constitution itself. So the Constitution reigns supreme, but it grants the citizens rights that are not even written there and superior to all others. But where it becomes especially relevant and guarantees that it will remain relevant is in Article 5. Article 5, and by the way, Dr. J, you made me go back and read the whole Constitution last night. Article 5 spells out that even the Constitution itself is subject to others. It is subject specifically to the federal legislature and the state legislature. If 2/3 of all of them agree that the Constitution needs to be updated and changed, it is. So although it's supreme, it's also inferior. Those changes could go as far, I don't want to scare you, as to do away with the Constitution altogether and start over. It is hard to stay more relevant than that. If it's not relevant, it's because we do not keep it so. But of course it's relevant, and it's hard to make it better than what it already is. But it is relevant in our daily lives. There are things that are disturbing, and we do not have to look miles away to see those that call themselves sanctuary cities and flaunt the supremacy clause. We can look right here where a constitutional amendment to legalize medical marijuana was passed and is seen as law. I support medical marijuana. If I am ever sick, and especially terminally so, I would appreciate it if you'd stay out of my business. I'm just going to tell you. Whatever I might want to try to help myself, I'd appreciate it if you just leave it alone. I don't want you to tell me anything in that case that I cannot do. But the supremacy clause is clear. We have survived a terrible civil war. The Constitution is relevant, and we should not ignore it. The marijuana amendment, which I have worked to make work, was unconstitutional as soon as it was written because it goes against the supremacy clause. We cannot overrule the federal government. It doesn't matter how much you like it, any more than a sanctuary city can. I can say things standing here today that if I said them in Canada, I would serve prison time, and people have. I want you to think about that. That's Canada, not Saudi Arabia or Russia. You want to talk about relevancy, the freedom of speech. I have the right to practice my religion, as my brother talked about a while ago, without any prohibition by the government. People need to go read the First Amendment and not just trust the newspapers and other people for what it says. I enjoy going into schools, senior centers, and other such places as a state senator. I often explain that whatever restrictions may have been placed on others that they think they can place, they certainly cannot place them on me. I cannot establish religion, but I can talk about mine freely. Most people need to reread the First Amendment. I have the right to be armed. I have rights against unreasonable searches and seizures. That's 4. It amazes me that we have state agencies that on a regular basis tell parents that they must allow the state to enter their home to investigate, interrogate their children, all without a warrant, and that if they do not comply, their children will be taken. All those are in violation of 4. And I don't care how much you hate child abuse, and I hate child abuse. The Constitution is the Constitution. It amazes me that one cannot only not face one's accuser in these proceedings, because I have been there and observed them, but there is often nothing speedy about it, and we use the excuse that it is not criminal. One is compelled to violate one's Fifth Amendment rights in a system where one is guilty until proven innocent if one wishes to ever see one's children again. Which might be very well if everyone was guilty, but everyone is not. That is why we have the Bill of Rights, and that's why the Bill of Rights were and are necessary. There's not a jury in these proceedings, not in any of this. Amendment 7. Your fellow citizens would not let most of this happen if they were sitting there making the judgment. And I know a few more cruel and unusual punishments than for your children to be taken away while you jump through the hoops of a judge and a bureaucracy, all acting in secret. The most cruel is to have your children permanently separated and given to strangers. To be sure, there are definitely cases where children need to be taken away, but those will hold up to the light of day in an open court with a jury. It is horrifying how many people lose their children in this state for the most inane reasons, and how easily it is done. And because it is so secret, only a state senator really plugged into this matter knows how often it happens and how often my wife and I cry with people. So I tell you